Welcome back. We are going to find out the evidence that is a significant detail, which I think is... going to be this.
Yes!
Look at this, here. There's a very unusual mark on the victim's wrist. That is true. It looks almost like a burn of some description.
Objection!
Dear me, I was pondering what that new piffle you would come out with. A burn, you say, on the victim's wrist? Clearly that has nothing whatsoever to do with the magnificent lady's handbag. Yes, that is a burn mark. You're right. Go on, Inspector. The police coroner also noticed it when it was performing the post-mortem examination. It was deemed unrelated to the cause of death, so he didn't note it in his report. What did I tell you? In any case, we have no idea when the victim suffered this burn, do we? And no possible way of knowing either. The more I look at it, the more I find myself intrigued by the curious shape of this mark. However, as the prosecutor Alchi points out, unless a firm connection to this case can be shown, I cannot allow any further time to be spent on the precise details of this burn. What's she saying? Excuse me, Your Excellency. It would seem Miss Brett has a lunch appointment with the dean and other university staff. She would like to know if she may be excused from the stand now. Oh, of course, dear lady. We shan't hold you up any longer. I'm quite sure His Excellency is about to give his final ruling anyway. What's your thinking on this, Ryunosuke? Do you believe this burn does have something to do with the case? To be honest, I'm not really sure. But if I don't keep pushing, then it's all over. So I was thinking I should keep digging and digging, in the hope that I might uncover something useful. Yes, you're right. I am? If we can just link that burn to the case, if we can do that, we might be able to prise this shutting door back open again. Just give it up, Counsel. You can't possibly hope to do that. Indeed, I am afraid that without evidence, I cannot allow you to pursue what is little more than conjecture. But if we had evidence that irrefutably linked the burn on the victim's wrist to the case, then you would allow it? I would allow it, yes. To tell the truth, I hadn't noticed that burn, but as soon as you pointed it out, what I did notice was the color draining from Miss Brett's face. Really? I have to find some link between that burn and the case. This is the moment of truth. It is time to find some evidence that proves what that burn really means. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inexcusable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. It will be... this picture.
Yes!
Right. What's this, Counsel? Yet another print? Yes, Your Excellency. I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forevermore. Do hurry up, rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further would really be quite inexcusable. Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible in this other photograph. How did the victim come to have that unusually shaped burn on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What? How?
Objection!
You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy. If that's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court exactly what you mean. What is it in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn? Just right here. The beefsteak? Actually, the point is the metal plate the steak was served on. The plate? Your Excellency, are you alright? As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of La Carnival. This emblem on the plate. And the victim's burn are exactly the same shape. Ryunosuke, you genius. You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant.
Objection!
But even if that's the case, we can't know if it's happened on the day in question or not. It could have been on the day before, or the day before that, or it most likely happened at some other unrelated time. Well,
Objection!
Sadly, Prosecutor Alchi, the chances of that are extremely slim. Thanks. Why? The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosonaga? I can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly. But... I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although that was not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. And this was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that would have taken around 3 seconds. It's inconceivable that the victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. I've been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, but I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of La Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation. But you're a detective, not a waiter!
Yes!
Clowns. Clown shoes everywhere. There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, anyone who burnt themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream, not on that day or any before it. That's right, and the strange thing is, on the day that he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the old antique dealer, all of us would, without any question, have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Alchi? Well, yes, I suppose. So the question is, why didn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? I almost didn't believe it. Ryunosuke, do you think... Can it really be true? I never dreamt we would arrive at a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe we've been led into a terrible trap. There's only one explanation I can think of to make sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson was already deceased. No man could remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible. Apart from one particular situation. Counsel, are you suggesting... Yes, it's only possible if the man was already dead. already dead? Knowing what we know now is the only possible explanation. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead. That's madness and sadness combination. Order, please. Counsel, explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot. That's right. That's absolutely right, Your Excellency. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts.
Objection!
No, Prosecutor Ouchie, it was you who has no grasp of the facts. I beg your pardon? As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered that burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down. Or have you not grasped that yet? Your Excellency, the court must hear from this witness again. If it's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard, it's highly likely that Miss Brett knows something about it. Incredible. I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, that you will have to forget your luncheon engagement. But, Your Excellency... The justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured, all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I'm prepared to pass judgment. Thank you, Your Excellency. Yeah, I got nothing to say. What was that smile? Yes. Of course, I mean... I'd be delighted to help, especially if it helps relations between my country and yours. So she faking it the whole time. Miss Brett, you speak Japanese? Well, of course I do. Or no, I shouldn't give her that voice. I should save that voice for the other girl. This one should be more like a, you know, like a Dami Mommy type of voice. Let's try. Well, no. Well, of course I do. I am studying in your country after all. Maybe. But then, why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now? My mother tongue, the Queen's English, is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible. Ooh, clowns. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen. So I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you all on your own level. Oh, well, you are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. We are truly honored by this lavish consideration you so graciously afford us. I see. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson. So, we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Ryunosuke. Witness testimony. The victim's death. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on it anyhow. Or anyway. That most captivating and beautiful testimony will go down in the Supreme Court's history. Thank you. Easy does it. I hope that is the last time I will have to sully my lips with the coarse tones of your unbecoming tongue. Oh, forgive me. I do hope I haven't insulted anyone. Lies. Not at all, not at all. It is a delight merely to hear you speak, dear lady. And it seems very clear from your testimony that this boorish talk of the victim's burn is utterly irrelevant. I will be speaking to your country's Minister of Justice about what has happened here today. The Minister of Justice? May that irritating little bully of a oh, I'm messing this up. Sorry. May that irritating little bully of a student be given the harshest punishment possible. Amen. Huh? Thanks? Is that a prayer then? Well, you'll have to forgive the irritation, Miss Brett, and put up with the cross-examination now. I expect you've noticed that this little bully of a student, as you put it, doesn't miss much. I'm sure I don't need to remind you, counsel, that this will be your final cross-examination in this trial. If you fail to demonstrate any problems with this witness's testimony, I will be ruling on the case immediately. Is that clear? Ooh, that had to hurt. Yes, Your Excellency. Then you may proceed with the cross-examination. Cross-examination, the victim's death. Alright, let's see. We'll just press it.
Yes!
But his hand was on the soaring hot plate for at least 3 whole seconds. You can't not have noticed. Do you think so? Let me ask you something. Sorry? Ever since I arrived at this courtroom, and even still now, the fly on those unsightly black trousers of yours has been wide open. You can't not have noticed, can you? Huh? What? Ah! She got me. Ahaha, what fun. You hadn't realized. The dear lady is absolutely right. As your friend, you've embarrassed me as well as yourself, Ryunosuke. Why didn't you tell me? These are clowns, 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 and clowns. Dr. Wilson was a true English gentleman. He chose honorable silence over vulgar scream. Can your tiny brains imagine such a thing? Oh yes, I think my tiny brain can. Well, I can't. Anyway. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses and toast. Okay, let's press. As you testified before, you were drinking carbonated water, is that right? Dr. Wilson was only permitted to drink water at that time, if you remember. Which explains why he ordered that drink, correct, waiter? Exactly as you say, sir. Although, whether or not the professor actually drank any of the water when I delivered that steak on the table, I'm afraid I don't remember that. Damn you. I have enough of your English to understand that, at least. For the benefit of the others in the course, it means bless you. I think it means the exact opposite. Anyway. As far as I heard, the post-mortem report showed no other cause of death. Let's press it. Yes, it's written here in the paperwork. Fatal hemorrhage of the ballistic trauma. From ballistic trauma. Yes. Luckily for all of us, a little burn on the wrist isn't going to kill us. And as there were no other signs of trauma on the victim's body to indicate some other cause of death, it can only have been the bullet from your gun that put an end to this innocent man's life. But it doesn't make sense. The burn must have happened straight away when the plate was first brought to the table by the waiter. Yes, that's true. If it had cooled even slightly, it wouldn't have been able to make a burn like that. And if the victim burnt his wrist on the hot plate as soon as it was brought out from the kitchen, then he must have already been dead at that point.
Objection!
And yet, the fact is that the victim was killed by a gunshot to the chest. Until you're able to show the court evidence to disprove that, this is a complete waste of time. I concur. Prosecutor Ouchie is right. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me.
Yes!
Let's press that on. Without leaving a trace... If someone is shot, or strangled, or stabbed, or thrown from a height, however a person's life is taken, there's always a telltale traces on the body. Quite right, dear lady. And as our police force has thoroughly examined the body of the deceased, there can be no doubt. Isn't that right, Inspector Hosonaga? As I've said, I've always aimed for a flawless investigation. There would be physical traces with all the causes of death, that's true. But maybe there's some other way of killing someone that doesn't leave a mark. If, heaven forbid, you doubt me, young man, you're going to have to tell everyone how exactly you think the professor did lose his life. Otherwise, I'm afraid your argument falls rather flat, doesn't it? Oh no, perish the thought, calling such a sweet young lady's innocence into question? And on my honor, I... Takesuchi Ouchie, will cut down any who dare cast such aspersions. A way of killing someone that leaves no trace. We need some evidence to back us up here. Yes, evidence. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on that anyways. So the last one here. Inferior? What do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found at the crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once, and that's the end of it. Isn't that so? Quite right! La Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident. Exactly, which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital information may be lost. Oh, what's happening over there? It doesn't even occur to your naive detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand. Ah, killer blow! A lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Ouchie is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right. What do you think, Ryunosuke? I think it's going terribly. No matter how much I press her, I'm not turning up any new information. Yes, as I suspected. She's a tough witness. We need to find a way to break her testimony, or the cross-examination will be over. But that would mean I have to find a way. There must be some clue somewhere to help us find a chink in her armor. Kasuma. What, Ryunosuke? There is one thing I noticed, something that's been bothering me. Bothering you? You mean about Miss Brett? Actually, no. About the person standing next to her, Inspector Hosonaga, the detective. Yes, he seemed to react a little strangely to Miss Brett's last statement. I was wondering if it might be significant, if it might be present, or if it might present an opening, maybe. Alright, I have an idea. Try pressing her on that last statement one more time. If you think so, but this time, instead of targeting the woman herself, let's see what we can get out of the detective. Alright then, I wonder what Kazuma's thinking. I'll find out soon enough, I suppose, once I press Miss Brett on her last statement again. Then to the last statement. And press. Inferior? What do you mean by that? By the lens of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found in the crime scene from Britain's cursory. Yes, isn't that so? Quite right. Open for business like normal, exactly. Vital evidence may be lost. And it should be here, right? Yes, there it is again. The detective's reaction is just the same as before. Why? Up until now, the detective has been in the stand with Miss Brett as her interpreter. But things are very different now. For this testimony, the detective is just listening to what the Englishwoman has to say. This could be a golden opportunity. What do you mean? When people are actually testifying, they're usually very careful not to let anything slip. However, when they're listening to someone else speak, you'll find they often let their guard down. You're right. Look at him. He's lost in his own thoughts. It's time to pursue the man and his train of thought. Sorry, pursue? I'll explain how to do it now, Ryunosuke. It's all to do with the witness marker. What marker? At the moment, we're focused on Miss Brett, who's the person actually making the current statement. But by moving the marker left and right with the D-pad, you can turn your attention to other people in the stand. While you're looking at the other witnesses, you'll be able to pursue them with X. If you can catch the person at just the right time, you might uncover some new information to pursue. If you ever notice a strange atmosphere amongst the people in the stand, take a good look around. Alright then, so first I should move the marker with the D-pad and focus on the detective, then pursue him with X and see what's on his mind. Here we go. Exactly, which means that even the investigation has a different direction. Vital evidence may be lost. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah! What the? What's the meaning of this? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to shock you. He really was lost in his own thoughts. Deeply. It looked like you were thinking something just now, Inspector. Perhaps having heard what the lady next to you had to say? If there's something you'd like to say, please, share it with the court. What is the meaning of this? It's the delightful Englishwoman who's testifying at the moment. If you can't fault with her testimony, then your cross-examination should just be over immediately. Oh, is that how it works? Absolutely not. The detective is in the stand. Which makes him a valid witness. Yes, not to mention the fact that he's intimately involved in the case. Inspector Hosonaga. Yes. Do you have something to add in relation to the statement just made by Miss Brett? Well, yes. If you don't mind, I would like to speak. Wow. The lady is right. Our country's police practices are not as modern as those used in Great Britain, which is why I, Satoru Hosonaga, always strive to make every investigation I'm involved in flawless. What do you really mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. I won't have evidence lacking on my watch. I'm not afraid to take everything I can from the scene of the crime. It's preserving evidence, you see? I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. Crime scene thief? Well, it looks like the lady's remarks touched a nerve there. Take this, for example. This is the bottle of carbonated water that I took to the victim's table on the day in question. And yes, it's lost all of its fizz, having been opened 3 days ago now. But it was carbonated water. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, there's some left in the bottle. I can see it. One day our police force will be among the best in the world. The time is coming, I guarantee it. I can't say I condone the witness's actions, but I do understand the sentiment. The court will accept the glass bottle of water as evidence. The carbonated water bottle has been entered into the court record. And we will continue this next episode. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave a like and follow or subscribe.